Yeah, the court is um, being influenced by partisan agents in either of the other two branches of government. The court has been stable, um, righteous, and built to last since the inception of the country. But because our Congress folk and presidents have faltered in their abuses of power and forfeiting power and doing things that they shouldn't be doing in their role, their influence is now pouring into the judiciary as they try to pawn off their responsibilities to make laws onto the judges.
The end of the judiciary being seen as nonpartisan is mainly because of some of the biggest cases the Supreme Court ever decided. Like Brown versus Board of Education and Roe versus Wade are going to be what ends their nonpartisanship, because Brown versus Board of Education made Southerners realize that the Supreme Court had the power to influence their everyday lives and an ability they never thought they could. And Roe versus Wade made the church realize even worse that, well, I gotta do something about this. Once you realize that you can make, the Supreme Court can say a Negro needs to go to Ole Miss, Dixie, then I can make I can get someone on the Supreme Court to say that you have the individual right to carry a weapon, and the Supreme Court can say that people have abortions. Well, this is life and death now, basically. And that really that caused their end, basically. Their most important cases that we teach little kids what's going to end up being what becomes the end of them, And I do think these cases are going to be decided. I think the Supreme Court's going to kick the can down the road. I think Justice Roberts really wants them to still be seen as nonpartisan. And I think he's going to ask them to please write a decision that says each state can decide how they want to deal with Roe, but everyone has an individual right to a gun with some exceptions, right? I think that's going to be the ultimate outcome. And I think Justice Roberts would say, if he gives truth serum, that allows us to not have the next Civil War as long as he's still living. Nobody's going to be happy with that. Most people won't be happy with that. Yeah, it's a Missouri Compromise, basically.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out later on. Yeah. All right, welcome back to Relative Conscious. My name is Brown.
Ervin Bryant.
Shout out to DJ for making our beat.
At DW Made That on social media.
And follow the social media.
That's at Kinda Woke on Instagram and Twitter. Relatively Conscious everywhere else. In court, why don't you let us know in the comment section, retweet, subscribe, like, follow, all that. Let us know, do you think abortion is gone for good? And are you ready for everybody, and I do mean everybody, to be walking around with a gun?
Yeah. So the two cases on the docket they're about to hear, or the Supreme Court has started to hear oral arguments on one, and we'll have oral arguments on the other one. One is a Mississippi case that bans abortion after 15 weeks. And basically, Mississippi has asked them to decide whether or not Roe versus Wade is still good law. We can get into the amount of details later on.
Yeah, you go. Hey.
The second one is the NYC case. New York City has basically a ban on handguns, where you can't bring a handgun outside the house and carry on your person unless you have a reason to need a handgun. Like you have to give NYC officials a reason why you need a handgun. I'm security. I fear for my life. I got a stalker or something like that. If you don't have a good
fear for your life isn't a good enough reason, by the way. They won't approve your license for that.
Yeah. But if you don't have a good reason, then you don't get to carry it around. And they're saying, well, that directly messes with the Second Amendment that gives the right to each person to have a weapon, right?
Yes.
An individual right to own a gun.
Yeah.
Which the court said was existence, which not the court. Scalia said that in 2008 that the Second Amendment gave you the right to an individual.
It's not about militias anymore. It's about you.
Well, if the court says you have an individual right to own a weapon, then how come New York can say I can't walk around with that thing on me? I'm trying to carry it on me. So anyway, the first question I have.
Yes.
Because these are hot topics politically, right? So they're
matters of life and death.
Yes. Has the Supreme Court lost its ability to be a nonpartisan entity? Like if the Supreme Court decides on this case, we stop seeing it as above the political fold. Because the founders in their intent in creating the Supreme Court was like their job is to decide on the law.
Yes.
They're lifetime appointments. Therefore, they're not partisan actors.
Right.
They're deciding whether or not the law that was made is agreeing with the Constitution.
Okay. So I say it like this. I think the court is probably one of the best designed factors of our government, right? Because all the incentives and checks built around Congress have failed because they were hinging on like the human condition. Like we understand people, and people will behave like this if we put them in these situations. But we've broken all that. We just, I don't know, moral backbone, whatever. We lost it, and humans are not behaving like they did in the 1780s. But the court, for all intents and purposes, especially like over the majority of our history as a country, static. Like you got a bunch of established, reputable guys up there sitting on the bench, guys and girls. What's up? Eventually, Black people too. Eventually, making decisions that establish the law and maintain the law, and it arcs generally where the people are at that time.
Sometimes it was a little bit ahead, like Robert's Board of Education.
I mean, that's kind of excellent. Like the court really works. Here's a problem though. At that time, 20th century, right? Brown v. Board, and around those decisions then, even when Roe versus Wade was made, the appointments were less political. So because of our failings in other branches of government, I would say the least compromised, the most stalwart is the judiciary, and the others have fallen. This one beam can't hold up the whole structure by itself, basically. So because we elected a communist president, because we got spineless folks in Congress who did everything in their power to influence the third leg, it's cracking, it's crumbling.
Yeah, like it's really interesting to me because the path of getting to the court starts in law school, basically.
Yes.
You got to get on a law review. But like, who's going to let you on a law review? And then what law schools, law reviews matter, right? Mm-hmm. And so political activists have already decided beforehand whose law school, law review matter, right?
Interest groups, PACs.
Yeah. The Federalist Foundation being the main one, right? And so if I say UT's law review, Virginia law review, Notre Dame, conservative entities, their law review matters, right? In the Fifth Circuit, UT's top, right? Then you're talking about maybe Ole Miss, Mississippi State, it goes further down the list. And these are all very conservative schools. The Fifth Circuit being the most conservative circuit. So to get onto the Fifth Circuit, you gotta have conservative law review to court with the right judges to get a right judge seat. And then in Texas, judges are elected. So to even get elected in Texas, you gotta go through a political process that gets you to, and then at some point, the Republican president will put you on the Fifth Circuit, which would get you to the
potentially
final
nominated
the Supreme Court.
Supreme Court justice.
So the structure itself, like the Supreme Court itself, may have done its best to be nonpartisan, but the road to get there was all influenced by partisans.
Well, here's what I'm saying though. Like all those points are points where you could be influenced. Yeah. Right. But in the past, that wasn't necessarily true. Yes. That's what I'm saying. Like it's other actors. The judiciary as an entity across the country, a network that spills out, from DC, and you've got lower courts and lower courts and lower courts. It's justices. We got to decide civil cases, criminal cases. Like this is not, less than any other government entity, not a political issue. Like, did you steal?
Yeah.
Did you wreck this guy's car? Do you owe him money? Just every day we gotta sort out who did what, who owes what person. Do you gotta go to jail? So it's not a political thing. From the smallest part to the biggest part, where you just, this is the law. Are we going to operate by it? Do we need to change it, et cetera, et cetera? But in a world where you just said, all those other political actors who aren't in the government, but where Mitch McConnell is going to deny a president with his legal power, as what was the majority leader at the time, deny a president his presidential power as said in the Constitution to at least nominate. Didn't even let him nominate a Supreme Court justice. And then to offhand make promises to constituents and donors that with a new president, you will get the decision that you want on abortion. This is the kind of plays, and President Trump and Mitch McConnell making these promises. These are the kind of plays that entirely poison the well, because now we do have those justices. Like, it did occur exactly as planned. People retired, people died, and we got the justices. Trump got his crazy amount of appointees, one of which he stole from Obama. And so we see it playing out, but it's not the judiciary's fault. It's not the Constitution's fault. It's our fault.
Yeah, because like one thing, the Constitution was like, justice should be someone who's like qualified, basically, right?
Yeah.
But we always thought qualified means you need to be 50, almost 60 years old.
You got to have experience.
Yeah, you need some gray hairs on your head, right? So
it's all about wisdom and making decisions.
Yeah, Thurgood Marshall, the age Colin Barrett is right now, Thurgood Marshall was still at the NAACP doing his thing or working in the lower courts, right? He was not there yet at the highest court. But the fact that now we're going to start putting judges on the court who are in their late 40s, early 50s, Joe Biden will not have a chance to put a judge on a court unless somebody unexpectedly dies or retires. And it looks like that's not going to happen. The court more likely was going to change with the time, because every 4 years, if everyone's above 60 years old, 70 years old, someone's probably going to die or retire. But now it becomes so static and set in time that 2020 is what the court going to look like for at least the next 10 years. Well, then now the court falls behind what people think. Right.
Because like we said, for the majority of history, the court's been arcing either with or ahead of the public consciousness. And if the people making the decisions don't change, then you can't have that kind of progress.
Yeah. So the next thing I'm about to say is, so for 50 years, we saw the gun lobby working to make the Second Amendment mean an individual's right to have a gun, right?
Yes.
Since 1974, Roe versus Wade, pro-life activists, evangelical preachers have been working to make sure whoever gets elected, make sure they believe that abortion, Roe versus Wade was incorrectly decided, right? Spent billions of dollars putting people through college, right? So like Amy Coney Barrett and Kavanaugh both worked on George Bush's campaign when he went to Supreme Court for Bush versus Gore, a case that we both had to look over for class. They worked on that case, right? Mm-hmm. To get that, they had to write very good law reviews at Harvard University that was conservative, and then be friends, Yale University, be friends with the right lawyers, and then get a job doing that. And because they work with Bush, they get an appointment in a lower court, right? So if we see this money being spent, why didn't Democrats or other people, why didn't they do something? Like, why did they kind of just let it happen and not like do something about it?
I'm hoping that you're not saying the Democrats should do this as well, because then, that's even more, here goes the word, polarized, right? If Democrats are grooming young justices and conservatives are grooming young justices, and they make them more and more extreme, and, then we've thoroughly, to use a popular Anglo-Saxon American phrase, screwed the pooch, right? The pooch is all the way screwed, and someone's got to raise the hybrid pups.
Yeah.
So, no, we don't want that. That's it makes it worse, and you can't legally stop the Federalist folks or whatever.
I say you screw the pooch,
Tony.
Because if you can't stop the Federalist Society, and you're getting Amy Coney Barrett on the court at 30, 40 years old.
Yeah, right.
Then you gotta.
Then we're gonna escalate it though. Next thing you know, we're gonna be appointing Antonius Brown, fresh out of law school, at 30 years old.
I'm just saying, like someone's like, it's a problem, and Roe vs. Wade is about to be declared bad law, and so I do think push come to shove, you got to figure something out. So
also, it's a slow game. We have to keep that in mind, unless we want a court pack again. So please don't do that, because that's another snowball, right? Where the president can appoint more than 9 judges and has in the past, but in a different age.
Threatened to.
You said what?
Well, has and then threatened to.
Yeah. But in a different political age where the threats didn't immediately go to nuclear, right? Because we have quote unquote gone nuclear in Congress a couple times, whatever the nuclear option in that particular case may have been. And cheating in one way or another, foul play in one way or another, is not beyond our legislators at all.
Yeah.
So if we start court packing, Joe Biden, let's say he's Democratic president, let me just appoint a few just to try to balance it out as I see fit. Don't let Ted Cruz become president. It's going all the way down.
Yeah. The last question I have is, on these cases specifically, is the better outcome that Roe gets decided to where each state gets elect to decide how they want to deal with abortion, and then you have a legal right to carry a gun whenever you want to? Say why I said it's the best choice. Because the abortion cases take up so much time in the judicial branch. We spend a lot of time dealing with this. Texas isn't going to stop. Texas, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, they just want to do it. And at some point, if you don't allow them to do it, do we get January 6th? Do they get to the point where they're blowing up abortion clinics again? Because if it's life and death for them, why should they ever stop? Right.
That's 100% the energy. I definitely agree. From the time Roe versus Wade was decided, the war was on, and it's been escalating ever since.
And so if you're just okay, well, y'all can do that if you want to do that in Texas. California, you can do what you want to do also. And that way, if you live in Texas, you ain't got to worry about what people do everywhere else. Is where I do here in my own little state. There are some pro-life advocates who are really the entire nation needs to be pro-life. I mean, that's the only way that makes sense, though. I mean, if I believe this is murder, I'm a what's it called, a abortion abolitionist, as there is a separate movement, just with the guns. Ervin, I'm gonna tell you something real quick. I don't believe pro-life advocates really about that smoke. I think it's really just about
I know they exist. I'm not talking about the popular thing, but I'm saying there's other movements just like with guns, and they come in for the whole. This is murder. I believe in life, sacred life.
I think most of them are
I'm on a crusade.
I think most of them if Texas can do it, I'm good. Yeah. And I think the gun thing is the same thing. As long as I can carry my gun where I want to go, I'm good. And I don't think most New York and Chicago having strict gun laws doesn't stop gun violence.
No,
it does make the NRA bigger. So can we just get rid of it and call it a day? Is that a bad solution?
I believe yes. Here's a wild example. There was once a polarizing issue that came before the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said it was a political issue, and then it was decided by Congress, and they kicked the can every opportunity until it literally tore the country in half, and we had a war about it. And abortion being a life or death matter.
You're talking about slavery, right?
Yes, I am. If it wasn't apparent, I'm talking about the literal Civil War slavery, right? There were slave states, free states, et cetera, et cetera. New states were being added to the Union, and the fight about whether or not they should be a slave state or free state as a political issue and as a moral issue and as an economic issue, all that, caused a whole war that we fought. And guns, constitutional right. The right to life, moral issue. And guns is this. The only difference in this fight is it's not so deeply economic, right? Because the South was built, the whole country was built on slavery, but the South especially, right? All the agriculture,
right.
et cetera, et cetera. They needed it for
like
those big major cotton producers. What?
It's like football now. You like to say
that. We replaced.
Yeah,
Colin Kaepernick would like that take. We replaced slavery with football.
Yeah, but like if Alabama couldn't have football anymore, what reason to go to Alabama ever again?
I'll say there's no reason. Okay,
yeah.
but my point is, it ticks two of those boxes: being a huge moral issue, huge constitutional, political identity issue. And the only thing it doesn't do is tear us apart economically. But I feel like I'm not trying to teeter on that edge. So let's decide it for the country, so we can fight about it in the courts. We can fight about it in the legislature. That's fine. That's how politics work. You fight about issues. Is global warming real? We've been fighting about that one and losing, but it is what it is. Doing one state do one thing, one state does another, only farther polarizes.
I think that's a better solution, because I think the only other solution is Roe versus Wade gets thrown out as bad law. Like I don't see a world where the justice decide for the next 20 years. I don't see a world just decide that Roe versus Wade is good law. I think either decide that it's state by state or it's bad law.
Yeah, and hopefully they write decisions. And I don't know. The Chief Justice is the Chief Justice, so shout out to seniority. And I hope hopefully the majority decision is written as kickingly vague as they have been written in the past for contentious issues such as this, so that in the same way that Roe v. Wade did not cement the right to an abortion but the right to privacy about such a matter, right? Kicking the can, a non-conclusive decision. I would hope that if they want to decide that Roe v. Wade is a bad decision, it's bad law, then they just say that and no more, right? As opposed to writing a to go on a moral rant is my point. Yeah, to really lay down the law. I think.
Yeah, don't let Thomas or Alito write it, because that's what you're gonna get. Yeah. My last bit is always Antonius Brown's broken record. If I had to say quotes, put this on a t-shirt. Pass a stinking law. Like, you could pass a law that says everyone has the right to abortion, and you could call it a day. Like, we could we're done. We could be done with this, because if we don't pass,
Kirsten Sinema won't get reelected.
Kirsten's trying to lose anyway. I don't know what she thinks is about to happen, but more likely she's gonna lose. Like, that's Arizona for the longest time with John McCain. I don't know what you think this is, but you finna lose. Georgia is going back red. I don't know what y'all got to say about that. Georgia's as red as a clay. It was only because Donald Trump really lost his mind that Georgia turned blue for a little bit. But, that's not happening. It's staying that way. And West Virginia is only by the grace of God that they stayed blue for this long. But once, what's his name? Manchin, gives it up and retires. That's it. Yeah. West Virginia's ready for the rest of our known existence.
So pass a law.
Yeah. So pass a law. You got the time right now. Pass a law. Just go ahead and do it. Because deciding on 9 people to create law really causes these issues, And I really feel like it's like Thomas Jefferson and James Madison thought that the legislator would want to have, they'll have their own pride and would have legislators would have ambition. And
right, so that's the goal, yeah. Or that was the expectation.
Yeah, so if you have ambition, do you want to pass a law? Like my ambition is let people know I was a legislator that passed a law that made abortion illegal.
I made my mark.
Yeah. So why not have ambition and do it? It doesn't make any sense to me, Now we expect presidents to have an ambition, and Obama gets Obamacare passed. The legislators don't want to do it, but Obama forces their hand because he's has ambition. Build Back Better. Joe Biden at 80 years old, he's 79, sorry, at 79 years old has more ambition than Nancy Pelosi and the rest of Congress combined, and wants.
And then AOC, a young woman.
Yeah, so I don't understand what this is, but you're causing us to have their lack of ambition is causing the third pillar to falter because it wasn't meant to do this. It wasn't meant to make judge law, and therefore you're causing to do that. And now we have all these issues, But predictions. What do you think they're going to decide?
Abortions for nobody and guns for everyone.
That's just so American. That's
who we are. I don't know.
Yeah, that's really really American. My name is Antonius Brown.
Ervin Bryant.
Peace.
Do it to him,